This week at Dreamworld, progress on King Claw and the full train circuit, Dreamworld's impressive end-of-year financial report, and discussing what's next at the park. Hello everyone, welcome back to the YumYum Report, bringing you bite-sized updates from Australian theme parks, as well as occasional updates from theme parks around the world. Before we start, I'd like to give a special thanks to Team YumYum for supporting my content. Thank you so much. There's been even more progress on the upcoming King Claw, which is set to open late 2025. Every week I visit, there's something new and exciting to look at on this attraction. While work is pretty much mostly complete, as far as I can tell, on the main ride itself, there's been a lot of work put into the surrounding area, such as the pathways and flooring, which they've dug up, and you can now see they're putting in the foundations. I wonder what the new pathway will look like and how it will blend into the path that's currently there for Ocean Parade and Main Street. I feel like something imitating a sort of sandy floor would be quite cool. When I visited Hong Kong Disneyland at the Explorers Lodge Hotel, they had this really cool pathway on the grounds that resembled sand and had like footprints. It honestly looked really convincing. I think something like this would be really cool. I'm super impressed with how close to the concept art King Claw is looking. They've done a fantastic job at creating something that's an obvious improvement over the original Claw ride and is thematically interesting without breaking the bank. I'm very excited for the theming for King Claw, and I wonder what we can expect outside of the ride itself. Maybe there'll be roaming characters, or there'll be some kind of lore and backstory built into the Ocean Parade area. I also wonder if we'll see an upgrade to the Ocean Parade sign. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you're enjoying this video, please feel free to leave a like, a friendly comment, or subscribe for more. And if you're interested in theme park content, check out my Instagram as well, where I post lots more cool stuff. Thank you so much. Progress on the full train circuit has progressed at a rapid pace, and it looks like it's getting pretty close to reopening pretty soon. A lot of the train tracks have been placed down, and the pathway leading from Rivertown and Jane's Rivertown restaurant to the animal area is now closed off, which is very interesting. I wonder what this could mean. There's a few things that this could indicate. It could mean that they're just closing it down to put the train tracks in place, or maybe they're closing it down to prepare the barn for the upcoming Dreamworld Country Fair, or, and here's what I hope it is, maybe they're putting in a new train station outside Jane's Rivertown restaurant, which I think would be a really cool spot for one. Some people aren't fans of having the train stops, but I actually like having those little pauses in between to kind of space out the train ride a little bit more. I think a lot of viewers are probably younger and more focused on rides, and I think it's important to remember that a lot of people visiting the park are families, and not everyone can walk around the entire park easily, so it makes sense to have a few different stops around to make it more accessible, which is one reason I think it would be really cool. What do you think? Can you see another train stop being added to Dreamworld when the full train circuit reopens? Would you be a fan or not? Let me know in the comments. This video is sponsored by Dehancer, a film emulation plugin I've been using a lot lately. Dehancer allows you to give your photos and videos film-like qualities such as bloom, halation, film grain, and much more. It's the ultimate tool for any creator looking to take the appearance of their photos or videos to the next level. There's lots of options available, from Photoshop and Lightroom plugins to video editing plugins for DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro, Premiere Pro, and After Effects. They also have a mobile app and a web-based editor too. If you're interested, check out www.dehancer.com and use promo code YumYum at checkout for 10% off your next purchase. A very special thank you to the awesome people at Dehancer, and back to the video. There was a news article published last week sharing some of the end-of-year financial results for Coast Entertainment Holdings, which is the company that operates Dreamworld. It's really impressive and quite exciting for the future of the park. This image was shared on the park's forum, and an article was also published on the Gold Coast Bulletin, which is behind a paywall, so I can't access that one. The article goes pretty in-depth on Coast Entertainment Holdings and Dreamworld's financial success over the last year, as well as hinting at some possible growth coming up in the future, but I'll break down the main points of this article that caught my attention. Dreamworld operator Coast Entertainment Holdings has logged a 275% increase in earnings despite a cyclone and a continued consumer spending squeeze. That's a really impressive growth. That's pretty amazing. The company logged a 100,000 net loss for financial year 2025, a positive swing from its 10 million loss the previous year. Revenue for the year hit 96.4 million compared to 87 million in 2024. That's really amazing, and it definitely sounds like from the article that the opening of Rivertown has really helped increase park attendance via ticket sales, and also guests are spending a bit more money at the park on food and drink, which is really evident when you see how busy Jane's Rivertown restaurant is. The article also discusses Coast Entertainment's proposal for development on the land surrounding Dreamworld, which, for those of you who don't know, they're basically pitching a kind of mini town, as the article describes, which would expand the Dreamworld precinct from 55 hectares to 85 hectares. So the space would allow them to build some shopping precincts and develop possible hotels and other facilities, which would be a big game changer for the park if they could build up the infrastructure surrounding it with hotels and some more dining options, restaurants, shops, and access via public transport. You see a lot of these kinds of things at larger parks overseas like Disney parks and Universal parks. They always have a kind of village nearby the park with a lot of additional options, and I guess if they're the landowners, they can lease out some of the buildings and spaces to businesses and attractions and things. And although these offerings wouldn't be inside the park, they would definitely increase the amount of visitors coming to the area, and a side effect or a byproduct of that would be that they would obviously be earning a lot more money that they could invest into the park, which would be really exciting. As the article says, it's really impressive how Dreamworld has seen such a change in its profits over the last year, especially considering, as Greg Yong says, the cost of living pressures and Cyclone Alfred, as well as the storm at the end of 2023 during the lead up to Rivertown. Coast Entertainment Holdings chairman Gary Weiss says that a strong trading momentum is building into 2026, with July's unaudited results indicating record earnings. From what I can gather visiting the park, it doesn't seem to be as quiet as it was in the past from my layman perception. You know, it always seems to have a nice atmosphere. There's generally quite a few people around, even in the middle of the week. Obviously there's some quieter days, but generally speaking, I think it's been a lot busier than it had been. Obviously there's a lot of upcoming additions coming to the park, such as King Claw and the return of Big Brother. And one other thing the article highlights is the return of international visitors, which Gary Weiss said has potential for unlocking further value in the group's land holdings, meaning potential upside for the business. Yeah, I have noticed there seems to be a lot of international tourists coming back to the country at all of the parks, which is really positive. A theme park doing well with its domestic visitors is one thing, but ideally it's great if it can become some kind of international tourist destination. And it's kind of common sense. The more people you have visiting the park, the more money they're earning, and the more money they're earning, the more demand there is for additional upgrades and rides and attractions within the park, as well as surrounding the park. What do you think of the article, or what I've shared from the article? Do you think it sounds like just sort of generic corporate showboating, or is it genuinely exciting and a good sign for the park? I think it's the latter. I don't know why I phrased the question like that. Obviously the park is doing very well. That's fantastic for everyone. So what's next for Dreamworld? I think if it continues on this trajectory, we can expect to see some big changes, especially with the success of Rivertown. It sounds like that went really well for the park, and it kind of proved the demand for something like that, which means if something worked in one form, something similar could also work. So they clearly tapped into demand for a particular part of their demographic, and I think there is demand for other parts of the demographic. You know, Rivertown was targeted at like a family demographic. There was something for everyone. You had Murrissippi Motors, it's a very family-based attraction. Jungle Rush, it's a coaster, but it's a family coaster, something accessible that everyone can enjoy. And of course, Jane's Rivertown Restaurant is something that is for the whole family. They really covered all the bases there, and they did a fantastic job. I do think there's demand for some more attractions for the thrill ride sort of demographic. That's one of the recurring comments I always get on these kinds of videos, is people wanting some kind of new thrill coaster or thrill ride, and I think they're partly addressing this with the upcoming opening of King Claw, but I think people are kind of crossing their fingers for some kind of large coaster, and I think Dreamworld's really been punching above their weight and competing with Movie World and SeaWorld, which have kind of dominated the theme park industry in Australia, especially after the unfortunate events that happened at Dreamworld with Thunder River Rapids. I don't really want to talk about that, it's not a nice thing to talk about, but for a long time I was surprised that Dreamworld was even still open. And, you know, since that time, there's been a change in management and a very clear change in branding and a return to form. And now Dreamworld, I feel, is punching not only on the same level as Movie World and SeaWorld, but well above what those parks are offering. I try to avoid favoritism, and I try to give an equal balance, in my opinion. Having said that, in my opinion, Dreamworld is miles ahead of the other parks at this stage, and could they pull off a big thrill coaster? Something to rival DC Rivals? I think they could. I think they could do it. They've got Steel Taipan, it's fantastic, but something bigger, something larger, a hyper coaster maybe. I think they could actually do that, and I think it would be awesome if DC Rivals had a rival at their rival park down the road. Can you imagine driving down the highway and seeing two gigantic hyper coasters? That would be amazing. None of this is like founded in anything realistic. This is pure speculation. This is just me saying what I think would be cool. But you know what would be the ultimate flex for Dreamworld? If they built not one, but two hypercoasters. Something like Stardust Races at Universal Studios. Like a dueling hypercoaster. That would absolutely crap on Movie World with DC Rivals and Kansas Twister. Can I see that happening? I'm not sure. Would it be cool? Absolutely. Obviously, as well as new rides, there's potential development for the land surrounding Dreamworld with this mini town idea they have, which I think is really cool. I already touched on that a little bit, but as I was saying, parks like Universal and Disney, they often have a village or a little boardwalk type thing nearby the park, and if you've got additional things for guests to spend time on outside of their park experience, preferably right outside as soon as they exit the park, you're going to have people spending more time in the area, which is exactly what you want if you're the owner of the land and the business that would see the benefit of those things. In other words, if you're running a theme park, it's part of the nature that at some point of the day the park has to close, and when the park closes, people will have to leave and they'll have to go and eat food, grab some dinner, or before they visit the park as well, grab breakfast. And if you're the owner of the theme park, I think it would be in your interest to own the restaurants that the guests are visiting, or if that's not possible, to own the land and buildings that the restaurants are on and in. And the same can be said for hotels and accommodation. As the parks grow, they'll become more of a tourist destination, and with tourists coming, they'll need to stay somewhere. And if you're owning a park, you want people to stay at the hotel that you own. So that's why it's important for the parks here to have hotels. And the only park at this stage that has a hotel resort is SeaWorld, and you know, Paradise Country has the glamping, which I wouldn't quite put on the same level as a hotel. It's cool, but it's not a big destination. And if you're putting hotels, restaurants, shops and things outside your park, you probably don't want to just put any old restaurant or shop or hotel. You want something interesting and unique that people will want to visit rather than going to something familiar like a McDonald's or something like that. Which is why at a lot of the Universal and Disney parks in their like village or boardwalk areas, you see a lot of things like Planet Hollywood, Hard Rock Cafe, lots more sort of unique experience restaurants and dining. So I feel like, again, pure speculation, if Dreamworld had something like this, we might expect to see some offerings on that level, which would be really cool. Anyway, enough of my speculation. What do you think is coming up in the pipeline for the future of Dreamworld? Let's start a little discussion. I want to read your ideas and your comments in the next episode of the YumYum Report. So let me know down below what you think we can expect to see next at the park, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts and reading them out next time. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like, a friendly comment, or subscribe for more. And before we finish, I'd like to wrap things up by giving a very special thank you to the members and sponsors of Team YumYum for supporting my content. Thank you so much everyone for your very kind and generous support. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos enough to support the channel in this way, and it helps me cover a lot of the costs associated with running the channel as well, which is a huge help, so I really appreciate it and I can't thank you enough. A big thank you to the members: Randall, Maloney's Coasters, Kai on the Internet, Oogie Boogie, Theme Park Ogre, Jordan Casey, Johnny Boy 175, The Downy Cat, Carrie Jekin, and Movies Like Everyone. Thank you very much. And a very special thank you to the Team YumYum sponsors: Koala75, Audrey Allen, Senpai's JP Blue Dog, Senpai's JP Red Dog, Wayne Hewitt, Lee Donald, SWStevie1, and the Kez. Thank you so much again, everyone, for your very kind and generous support, and for anyone who would like to become a member or a sponsor of Team YumYum, you're more than welcome to do so. This will give you access to new videos early. You'll also get a special shout out and thanks at the end of my videos, some emojis to use in the comments, a sticker next to your username, and last but not least, you'll also get a custom illustrated character hand-drawn by me to suit your very needs and requirements. And as an additional way to support the channel, I also have the Team YumYum sponsorship available, which will give you access to all the perks of the membership, but as an additional perk, I will also animate your character doing a little dance which will appear on screen, which will be super fun, super cool, and super cute. But if you're not in a position to support the channel in this way, you're more than welcome to leave a like, a friendly comment, or subscribe for more. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.